Hello and welcome to another Let's Play of Eldfall Chronicles Northern Wind. Today we will be playing the second quest and also the second introductory quest on the Oni Trail. And just to jump right into it, Tharos and Seigen stand alone, the crash of the falling boulders fading into silence save for their quickened breath. Snow drifts lazily from the pale dawning sky, muffling the world beneath its soft embrace. The unspoken urgency to reunite with Anari and Nara drives you onward through the bleak frozen landscape. So, as you can see here, I have put up in the field. I have placed the encounter 1, I have placed Seigen and Tharos, and I have placed an Oni with 3 wound tokens, 2 weak points and 1 distracted. So he has quite a lot of token already next to it. For our fate check, we have to see if we have fate Violet B. We indeed have from our last mission, so we discard it, and we can disregard the rule scavenge for weapons. If we do not have the Violet Fate B token, we would be able to use this rule basically to get a dagger to fight. Otherwise, find a shuffling upgrades card, Stone Splitter, Thenian Crossbow, Medicine Dagger and Haste Bomb, place them face down somewhere next to the field into a loot stack. This is something I forgot to do. I will just do it after I stop the recording for a short moment. And also, Distracted Hostiles. Here, during the hostile turn, distracted Oni Marauders in this quest activate and spend 1 activation point to move 1 space towards the exit. The exit is here, so basically with its 2 activation it will move 1 and 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then it will be out of the field. And it will stop being distracted if it is attacked, if the heroes enter the line of sight, or if it is in the same space. And once they stop being distracted, they will use their hostile behavior card, which is just right here. So, and now something else. The quest ends if the heroes leave the field through the exit and the hostiles begin this game. And just as a quick refresh from our last game, Seigen and Tharos get the equipment they had been allocated last time. So Seigen has a short sword and a dagger, while Tharos has a hatchet and the firecracker. So with all this, I will just put together the loot deck. And we will jump right into the first turn of the Oni's hostile. So, give me a second. Okay, as you can see here, I now have the required loot deck. And we will already start with the first turn of the Oni Marauder. So it will activate, and according to the hostiles fleeing Marauder rule, it will move 1 space up to here. But this will trigger reactions from Tharos and Seigen, who will use it to dodge and use the dodge activation to get 1 space closer. And just having a look here where the marker is here, the marker is here, and from these 2 markers, I would say you are not able to get a clear line of sight. Therefore, both of our heroes are unable to react to the following activation of the Oni Marauder, who walks another space up, taking all this token with him and jumping immediately to the activation of Seigen and Tharos. I will start by activating Seigen first, who will move his first square, immediately triggering the encounter 1 token. Having a look, what does it say? Rounding the band, a wounded ogre comes into view, struggling under the weight of its stolen loot. For now, it remains unaware of your presence, too focused on its haul to notice you. The sight of your belongings among the spoils stirs a strong temptation to reclaim what is yours. Yet, caution dictates a strategic approach. Perhaps there's a way to avoid a direct confrontation with the beast. Place Intrigue token 1. Place Intrigue 1 token 1 space west of 2. Let me just grab the intrigue token. I already prepared it over at the tokens. And 1 token west of 2, so basically here, which is up to here. Done. Place 1 Oni Marauder, 2 wounds, 1 weak point, distracted without activation points, 2 spaces east of the Oni Marauder facing exit. 2 spaces east, 1, 2 is here and also facing the exit. Now, once again, what does he have? 2 wounds, 1 weakness and distracted. So we have 2 wounds, 1 weak point, and he is also distracted. So here we are having 2 Oni Marauders and 2 heroes. And finally, place encounter 2 on 2, and this is right behind the gate. So here we have our field. And we have also a result. When an Oni Marauder is incapacitated, place 1 common loot token in the same space. A hero may interact with the token and draw up to 3 upgrade cards from the loot stack and then remove the token. 2 hints. Basically, if attacked, the Oni Marauder will stop fleeing and will use its distraction to react according to its hostile card. And here is a short explanation how combat works. But since I already know the skirmish, I assume that it will be similar. At least I will play it this way. If I make a mistake here, write it down in the comments. So this was Seigen's activation. When it's first movement of 2, here he will now move his second space. And now we have a chance to attack the Oni Marauder with its weak points. And having a look at if I can find the weak point rules quickly. Is it in the quick rules? It is not in the quick reference. So I will just have a look up at the weak point rule and then I will decide what I will do with his action. So give me a few seconds. Just to correct myself, right after I said I did not find it on the quick reference, I found it as soon as I stopped recording. It is here. But in the rulebook, it is a little bit more specific. So therefore, you can give out a weak point if you score a hit but do not inflict a wound. For example, as here, when a model lands a hit with an attack but fails to inflict a wound as a result of an unsuccessful damage roll, the model suffers a wound. Moreover, heroes can do that if they, for example, lose a confrontation but would normally hit, or also opponent successfully dodges. And in a single activation sequence, the model can only receive 1 weak point per attacker. They can be removed from the heroes with the rest, and exploiting. They can exploit immediately after performing attack rolls and before resolving confrontation. Heroes can exploit it as soon as the weak points counters on the hostile are equal or exceed the hostile's tier. In this case, the tier is here at the bottom right, it is 3. So none of these Onis so far with 2 and 1 weak point is enough that the weak points can be exploited. And if there aren't enough weak points, the hero can remove a number of counters equal to the hostile's tier, I assume, in this case all 3, and get a critical hit onto one of its strikes. And if it's the same size, smaller, or up to 2 sizes larger than the hero, and next to an open edge, then it could also be pushed off, or with the optional rule, it could be knocked back 1. Bosses are not affected by the pushback into the abyss, so basically, if it would be on a wide-edged field, I could exploit it and push the model off the side within the requirements, and then it would be dead, and all the loot token would have go with it down the abyss. So, with this said, Seigen has a short sword and a dagger. I think I will try to risk it with this surprise attack. And I will just go into a confrontation. Let me just put over the rulebook right at the top. So, in his still in this first activation, Seigen will use, this was his movement, and his activation he will walk one space. Up here, looking at the weapon, we have a reach symbol with a dot in it. Therefore, Seigen has to be within the field of the Oni Marauder. Luckily, here I didn't mention it in the last time, but here is a little number on each of the fields which notes how many models can stay in one space, and Oni Marauder, for example, count as 2 models. So Seigen as 1, the Oni Marauder as 2 are 3 in total. A maximum of 4 models can be per space, so Seigen is allowed with his 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces to move into the Oni Marauder square, which immediately causes it to lose its distraction token. At least I assume. If attacked, or if a hero enters line of sight, or in the same space, they stop being distracted and begin using their hostile behaviors. So, putting back the hostile token. And now, at the hostile card, we have to take a look. It is not the Oni's active turn, as seen in the gray marking. So, we flip the card over and have a look at its reactive side. It targets the activated model. Line of sight to the enemy within one space. Since Seigen attacks from behind, you can see here the markers, the little markings here. So it is not within line of sight, so melee attack is not an option. Target of an attack, attacker outside of range or no line of sight. This is the case. Dodge towards the attacker. So, with this, we will get into our first confrontation of the quest. Seigen declares an attack with his short sword. It has a strike value equal to his stamina. His stamina is 2, so I will just grab 2 dice. Now, since it is his active turn, he will use his offense skill of 13. He has to roll 13 or less. Let's see what he rolls. With a 4 and a 10, both of these are hits. So the Oni Marauder would be hit 2 times, but now the Oni Marauder tries to dodge. He has to roll lower than his agility score of 8. So let's see. And he rolls a 9. Therefore, the Oni Marauder failed his dodge roll, which means that he is hit 2 times. And now Seigen will try to strike the Oni Marauder. Here we are using looking at his power, which is equal to his toughness. His toughness is 13, minus the armor value, the helmet symbol, of 3. So he needs a 10 or less to put a wound onto the Oni Marauder. And with a 9 and a 5, both damage rolls are successful. Therefore, the Oni Marauder gets 2 additional wounds, to a total of 5. The Oni Marauder has a health of hit points of only 4. Therefore, I will swap out his wound tokens for an incapacitated token. With this, the Oni Marauder immediately goes down. The miniature stays on the field, and since he is incapacitated, when an Oni Marauder is incapacitated, place 1 common loot token in the same space. So, next to this Oni Marauder with all of his token, I will just put aside the 2 activation points, and Seigen will get his. With all this, the first Oni Marauder is already down. Let me just swap this so that we can see here what this Oni Marauder has. So, next we have still this Oni Marauder and the possibility to loot here. So, I will continue with Seigen activating. He will interact with the loot token and hope to get something good. He has an inventory of 6, as we can see here, and the total weight is actually 2, or currently 2. 1 times 1 plus 1 times 0, minimum of 1, therefore 1 plus 1, 2. And he's allowed to draw up to 3 cards. So let's see what he has. He gets the Haste Bomb as the first draw. The second is another dagger. And finally, he has the Thenian Crossbow. So I will just put these next to or beneath Seigen's card. Here they are. Seigen is out of activation points, and let's continue with Tharos. Tharos will use his activation to run 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces, occupying the final space of this. And looking at their stats, accuracy of 11, accuracy of 13, and the Thenian Crossbow has a reach, is a ranged weapon. I have to look up between the turns what this will mean, but in this instance he will use his second activation to stay in the field and to grab the Thenian Crossbow as well as the Haste Bomb from Seigen, so that Seigen has 2 daggers and a short sword, and Tharos has the Firecracker, Hatchet, Thenian Crossbow, and the Haste Bomb. So this was the activation, and before I continue with the second turn of the Oni Marauder, I will have a quick read up at the ranged combat rules, because this time in the dungeon crawl here they are different than the skirmish game. So again, give me a moment. Okay, with the next turn of the Oni Marauder, or before we start with it, I had a quick read up. The weapon range in general is infinite in the Northern Wind dungeon crawl, but the first value of the reach, here +3, is so long as you're within 10 spaces, and you also count corners where you have, and you also count corners. If it is necessary, I will read up, but I don't assume it will be in this quest. So, starting with the first activation of this Oni Marauder, it simply moves 1 space forward. Seigen will react by using a dodge to follow up. And now Tharos, will he attack the Oni Marauder in an attempt to slow it down? Let me just put it a little bit further up. I think Tharos will do that. So Tharos spends an activation point. Oh, no. He will wait. He will also just follow up. The reason for this is that when he would activate now, the Oni Marauder would be still has an activation point left and would attack these 2. But now, since the Oni Marauder uses a second movement, Seigen can once again keep up, getting into the intrigue token. I will read it in a moment. And now when Tharos attacks, the Oni Marauder has to react and move in its turn back towards the heroes. So Tharos will shoot in a moment, but before that he has an intrigue token. And the intrigue token says, you spot the walls of a weathered road checkpoint ahead, the wood beams above the gate sagging and cracked, barely holding under their own weight. The structure looks fragile. One good hit could bring it crashing down. It might be useful in stopping or even wounding the fleeing brute. Here, a hero may declare attack against the structure on the exit space. On hit, the structure collapses and any model in the exit space suffers 1 wound and 1 weak point. On hit, a distracted hostile will stop being distracted and start using its hostile behavior. Here, currently, the Oni Marauder isn't within it. Or, right, give me a second. Did I place it 1? No. East of the Oni Marauder, 2 spaces east of the Oni Marauder. Okay, I placed it correct. If there are no Oni Marauder on field, place it 1 space from 2. And 2, it would be here. So 1, 2, I think I have placed it correctly. So, Tharos shoots at the Oni Marauder, needing a 13 or less to hit the creature. and with a natural 20 he missed. Now having a look, when a model lands a hit, which is not the case, therefore his shot went right, and if attacked, this was the case, therefore the Oni Marauder loses its distraction token, but still stays in this direction, in this facing, or he will still face towards the exit because he didn't declare a dodge, and therefore he needed a dodge to turn around. Unless I overlooked a rule which says if attacked you will turn automatically. Single value, casting error, awareness within 3 inches is aware, line of sight, distance, measurements, dice rolls, no, attack roll, reroll, damage roll. No, I don't think that there is a rule, otherwise I will correct it in my next game. What about strikes? And their model default value is 1. Yeah, this might come in handy next time. More commonly attack, performing strike, certain abilities, ability, area of effect, hits. Another model causes a model suffer 1 or more hits each. A model that suffers a hit may adjust their line of sight. Since here was no hit, the Oni Marauder is not allowed to adjust its sight. So, then here we already have cleared this question. So now, the next turn. And I just noticed that I forgot Seigen's Ranger class once again, which had allowed him to move last turn 1 space. So, now with this new rule in question, Seigen will wait, because Tharos will activate first. He will shoot at the Oni Marauder, and once again, since it's its reactive turn, it has no line of sight, it will use a dodge action and dodge 1 space back in the direction of Seigen. And Tharos needs to roll once again a 13 or less to hit. This time with an 11 he hits. The Oni Marauder needing an 8 or less to dodge. With a 10 it fails, so now having a look, why only 1 die? Because the crossbow has only strike 1, and since it is within 10 spaces, he would have added +3, so 16 or less to hit. Sorry for this mistake, but he hit nevertheless, but it has only a power of 13. And the Oni Marauder has an armor of 3, once again a 10 or less to wound the Marauder. With an 11, this is not enough to wound the Marauder, but the Oni Marauder will gain a second weak point. So, now Tharos will activate again. Or will he? No, he will wait. Because Seigen will activate. He will get into contact with the Oni Marauder, triggering the next encounter. Drawn by the clash of steel and strength of blood in the wind, another ogre lumbers into view, its nostrils flaring at the scent of its fallen kin. The one had been scavenging for loot nearby, a little late to the battle. Ignoring counter 2 if there are hostiles on the field, which is the case. This one is still beating. If there are no hostiles on the field, an Oni Marauder appears at entrance, if distracted, so on, so on, so on. Therefore, we can ignore this second encounter. And we will only fight this one. So now, Seigen, as said, will attack the Oni Marauder, and this time there is a line of sight and he is within 1 inch. So it's a melee attack. Try to hit as many enemies as able with sweep. Here we have sweep 1, armor piercing and stagger, which might prove to be a nasty combination, but for that, the Oni Marauder will use its defense value because it is his reactive turn, and Seigen will still use his offense turn. So Seigen needing a 13 or less with his short sword. At 20 and 18, really terrible roll, and the Oni Marauder needing a 10 or less. With a 5, the Oni Marauder wins this confrontation. This is a bad example for how a confrontation works, but basically you have to roll better than the enemy, but still within your value. I will explain it at a later moment. This time, Seigen missed his 2 attacks, but the Oni Marauder hit. Therefore now, the Oni Marauder only rolled 1 die, because in his reactive roll you have a default strike of 1. So now armor piercing, which halves the armor of Seigen, but it is rounded up, so still 3. Stagger, Seigen loses his second activation point, and sweep 1 will only affect the square he's currently in. So with this, now the Oni toughness is 15, plus 4 is 19, minus 3, therefore 16 or less to wound Seigen. And with a 9, Seigen receives a wound, putting him down to 2 remaining. So now Tharos has another activation. I assume it would have been smarter to activate Tharos to drain the Oni Marauder at his word is missing, of his activation point, but now we have to deal with it. So he has an opportunity to strike at he will use his activation point. Since he has also an offense of 13, he will try to rush into melee and make 2 strikes with the hatchet, because the hatchet also has stamina, strike equal to stamina, therefore 2. 13 or less. As 7 and a 13, these are 2 hits. And now Tharos has to roll his toughness or less. He has only a toughness of 11. The Oni Marauder has an armor of 3, therefore 8 or less. Maybe he can put on another wound point, a weak point. 16 and 14, both not enough, but for this, the Marauder gets another weak point. Seigen didn't get a weak point because the Oni Marauder successfully hit our Empire of Soga hero. So now, the Oni Marauder is to activate, and for him, we turn around the card of the Oni Marauder. Let me just sort out the activation points. Closest enemy, then both activate first, use Demon when able. With Demon, we can turn the card around. When this model deals a wound, the target must perform a moral roll. A failed roll causes the target to become panicked until the end of the turn. A critical hit automatically panics the target until then. This model's attack receives +4 modifier against panicked targets. So, normally Seigen would have to test, but he's fearless, so he's immune against the panic state. And also menacing makes an additional -2 to the roll. But here, movement, engage with enemies within 3 spaces. This is the case. Now, so engage our enemy within 3 spaces. It's the case. Now, enemy within 1 inch or within 1 space. Melee attack. Try to hit as many enemies as able with sweep. So he will attack. Taking his Seigen will react with a confrontation roll with his short sword, and Tharos will try to dodge away. Why do I do this? Seigen has a defense of 14, Tharos has an agility of 13 instead of a defense of 8, and the Oni Marauder has an offense of 14. So, starting with the Oni Marauder, he will attack with 2 die, 14 or less. He rolled a 5 and a 17. This might be a good example how a confrontation works. So basically the 17 is a miss, but the 5 is a hit. Seigen has to roll 14 or less. He rolled a 5 and a 2. So now let me just jump back to the weak points. Exploit weak points. To exploit a weak point, the hero must remove the corresponding number from the target's hostile. This turn, one of the heroes strike against the target. They can be exploited immediately after performing attack rolls and before resolving confrontation. So, this is indeed a great example how a confrontation roll functions. So, we have seen the 5 and the 17 for the Oni Marauder, and the 2 and the 5 for Seigen. The 17 is out because it is above the value of the Oni Marauder's offense. So the Oni Marauder would have 1 strike, Seigen would have 2. But you also have to roll above the result of your opponent. Therefore, the 5 of the Oni Marauder cancels out the 2 of Seigen. Critical hits are natural 1, and they always bypass confrontation. So in this instant, 5 and 5 both would hit each other. But in addition to this, I will exploit with Seigen the weak points of the Oni Marauder, removing the 3 tokens, and turn the 2 into a 1. And with a 1, you have a critical hit, and with this, you win the confrontation. At least that's the way how I played it so far. Now that I'm talking about it, let me just... Of 1 is a critical hit, which reduces the touch armor of 0 and beats all opponent confrontation results. If a confront multiple models score critical hits, all critical hits are applied, the models suffer corresponding hits along with additional effects. Therefore, since I turned this one into a critical hit, it beats all results that are non-critical hits, and with this, the Oni Marauder's 5, which usually would have hit, because I exploited a weak point, is cancelled out, along with the 17, and therefore the critical hit of Seigen, in addition, the critical hit hits, and in addition to the 5, which was equal to the other value of the Oni Marauder, and therefore is also a hit. Is still a hit, is the better wording. So, Seigen scores 2 hits, 1 bypasses the armor, the other one not. Seigen has still a power of 13, minus the Oni Marauder's armor of 3. The normal hit, needing a 10 or less. With a natural 1, this is the first wound the Oni Marauder gets. And the critical hit, ignoring the armor, therefore a 13 or less. And with a 12, this is a second wound, which causes the Oni Marauder in his active turn to take enough damage to become incapacitated. And with that, he's unable to perform any further actions. And basically, this was the Oni Marauder's turn. He's incapacitated and dropping a loot token. And with this, the Oni Marauder does not gain any activation points. I will turn the 2 for Tharos and Seigen around. And first activation of Seigen, he will make an interact action and draw his Stone Splitter Nagamaki, which is also a melee weapon. But as you can, hopefully, let me turn it a little bit. As you can see here, it has the bleed sweep 1 200, as well as toughness +2 and strike value equal to stamina. Therefore, 2 attacks still in the same field as the opponent. But now, Seigen is able to strike at a power of 15 in total, because toughness +2, 13 +2 equals 15. So, straight up upgrade, and less surprisingly, he also gets the medicine. Restore 1 HP to the target. This was his first interact action. And Tharos will walk 1, 2 and go right to the exit. I am unsure when I can use the medicine because it only states restore 1 HP to the target. Is he restore 2 HP? In the skirmish you have the first aid upgrade, which specifically states that it can be used in the strategic phase. Here. Strategic. Use class, item, and other applicable abilities. So, here it is. It's the same. So therefore, Tharos will just go here. Seigen will move up to here. They will wait a turn. have a little breather, which allows Seigen in the next turn to activate the medicine and just to cure his own wound. So the medicine is used, and then both heroes use an action to leave the field. So with this we come to the ending, and we have: you navigated the old derelict trails, steering clear in the hunger-driven beasts that stalk the main roads. The path is overgrown, its contours hidden beneath the season's first snowfall. With no time to waste, you push forward. The rally point lies just ahead. And here we have: if they made it through the quest, Seigen Tharos may proceed to Hilltop Temple. Meanwhile, play Breaking the Barrier with Anari and Nara as they fight to overcome their own challenges and catch up. Should they succeed, the two groups rally at a Hilltop Temple. And here we have Breaking the Barrier. I just wanted to have a quick look. Here, this is the Hilltop Temple, so a bigger scenario. And unstable bridge, heroes, constructed tiles. Yeah. So, this was it. It was a fun introduction to the weak points and the whole combat system. I'm more or less happy with the spread of the equipment. Before I started the first quest, I already had a look up, and I was thinking about how I wanted to space up the equipment. And I wanted Tharos to have the hatchet, Thanian crossbow, and all the consumables like the haste bomb or the firecrackers. And Seigen, he has enough weapons to use. So basically I just wanted Seigen to have the stone splitter, and all the other parts are not relevant for my taste at the moment. So, fun game. I hope you enjoyed it. Let's have a final look at our two heroes who bested two Oni Marauder by only taking one wound themselves. I hope you enjoyed this Let's Play. Write down in the comments, and I hope I see you the next time. Bye!